back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, like I said, we are continuing that conversation, especially in regards to this motion of no confidence that's going to be tabled against the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Trevor James, tomorrow by the Minority Leader, Mr. Calvin Morris. So to give us a perspective on this motion is none other than geopolitical scientist Dr. Shane Mohammed. Good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Mohammed. How are you doing?
Good morning, Candice. I'm very well, thank you. I wish I was in Tobago this morning. It's an interesting morning in Tobago.
Certainly. How was the carnival for you in Trinidad?
I didn't have, for me, I just looked on. I just observed everybody from home. I spent most of my time at home, went to the beach during the course of the weekend, nothing major. I'm looking forward to Tobago Carnival actually.
In October or February?
In Tobago in October, not
Tobago in
February,
October.
February.
Yeah, the Tobago October Carnival seems as though it's a place to be. But Dr. Mohammed, now we are talking this morning in regards to this motion of no confidence against Secretary Trevor James for allegations of bid rigging and corruption in relation to several projects completed or engaged right here in Tobago. So I want to get your take on it. What are your views on this motion against him?
Well, I just want to start with some of the notes that I made listening to the minority leader, right? And he indicated that he, as minority leader, has a fiduciary duty to bring the information that he has in possession that there are there are acts of corruption and bid rigging taking place under the Division of Infrastructure, and that the motion also reads that it brings into question the conduct and or knowledge or the right to know on the part of the Secretary for Infrastructure about these acts of corruption. Now, I'm concerned about the quality of the motion, and the
Mm.
quality of the motion is what if I was sitting in the chair, if I was sitting in Abby Taylor's chair, I would be very concerned about the quality of the motion, and I would say to the minority leader, go back and rewrite your motion and come back before you even start a discussion. Why? Because it says, whereas there is public concern. I don't recall in the last several meetings of the executive council meeting with doing their town meetings and meeting with the people, that there was a public outcry that corruption is taking place under the eyes and the watch and the leadership of Secretary Trevor James. Nor did I hear an outcry on the ground while I was in Tobago that corruption is taking place um, by the people that indicate that we should be alarmed. That's one. Two, uh, about allegations of bid rigging and corruption within the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. And whereas the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries knew or ought to have known about these allegations of corruption, um, you can't bring a motion of no confidence in a secretary based on allegations of
Mm.
corruption. The word allegations of corruption, and given the fact that when you are in the House, you are protected by what we call the ability to speak freely. Um, there should the word allegations here is very vague, and the word allegations of corruption also weakens the quality of this. It means therefore that you are assuming and there's an assumption or presumption that there's corruption.
So are
There's
you
no
saying that
evidence.
he should have at least written some of those allegations into the motion?
Well, the wording is wrong, and the wording is
Hmm.
off completely. And it would be, I would laugh hysterically Candice, if he rewrites this tomorrow, but I assume that this is already um, Taylor, this has already been written and tabled before the House. So I doubt there's no reason, there's no rewriting of this, right? But in relations to allegations, right? So going back to the word allegations, there shouldn't be the word allegations should be replaced by evidence, because to bring a motion of no confidence in the Secretary of Infrastructure, blah blah blah, you should have uh, evidence, right? Evidence that raises the questions about the suitability to conduct affairs of the people of Tobago and hold public office. And that the House affirmed that the position of no confidence in the ability of the Secretary, it's a frivolous, very superfluous, very vague, very uh, it is not a it's not a it's lacking in strength. There's nothing here in this motion that says to me that we should be concerned, because it is simply an allegation of corruption, and a perceived allegation of corruption based on public concern.
Mhm.
And well, the question is, one, where is the evidence of the public concern? And two, if it's an allegation, then I have no reason to pay you any attention, because it's an allegation. You have no evidence.
So, certainly.
Because I went on. He also went on to talk about the fact that he was not part of the former administration, and therefore he has the right, and he has taken the oath to do what is right by himself. I agree with all of
Mhm.
that. That is all fair and good. However, doing right by oneself and not being part of the former doesn't make you doesn't take away from the fact that the former has still left and continues to leave a very bad taste in the palates of the Tobagonian people. And in addition to the fact that um, he's concerned about the fact that Tobagonian contractors not getting work the way that they should, or the major Tobagonian contractors are not getting work from the THA. Well, let's take into consideration who has caused bread and money to come out of the mouths and the pockets of those Tobagonian contractors. It is the former administration, or let us say the former administrations, that allowed this very same thing that he's talking about, corruption, to fester and to grow and to become a parasite to the THA, and to the people of Tobago. So it is the reason why the Tobago contractors are not getting work is because they are under audit by the current administration, who has every right to audit those contractors and to, in as far as possible, to retain funds that has been misappropriated by the former administration.
Now,
Uh, he also spoke about one more thing. He also spoke about the soul select process. Um, in the soul select process, yes, there's a process to follow, but I don't hear him saying that in the soul select process, there's evidence that money is going back in the pockets of someone else, which is then further flaws the entire motion. So these bombshells that he wants to bring, it has to have some sort of linkage. And this is where the academic in me comes in, where I would tell my students, as I would tell Cousin Morris as a student, um, link it. There's no linkage between your paper and what you're saying.
now, there was a concern about, in terms of the audits that are currently ongoing, there's a concern that perhaps the audits are taking too long. Now, I want to get from you, from an outside perspective, is there a time limit on audits into allegations of corruption within public office?
The thing about it is, it's a matter of the depth of the audit. That's one. Two, there is the extent of money that has been spent, and the extent of money that has not only been spent, but the terms of reference that has been handed to those that are conducting the audit by the THA and by the Chief Secretary. One, it has to do with how much money was spent. Money that would have been spent in uh, collaboration with uh, as it pertains to the project completed or incompleted. So does the audit would be a very it would have to be a very complex audit. So it's just simply going in there and saying, okay, well, under the Secretary of Tourism and Culture and wherever she was, uh, the X, Y, and Z money was spent or misappropriated,
Hmm.
or under the Secretary of Health, such and such money was misspent. No, it's a matter of project cost of project, money spent, proposed project uh, budget, and then final project money spent. How much difference is that? So the audit, it would be a very complex audit, one. And then we have to ask a good question there. Um, uh, how much, to what extent, or has the chief secretary and the administration given um, auditors a time frame in
Hmm.
which they are to work? So that's a question that the chief secretary would have to answer. But there has to be a time frame. Normally, they allow the auditors to go ahead and do their jobs until completion without no specific real deadline. But
Hmm.
that's not to say that an audit is going to go on for the entire lifetime of this administration. So it has to be one where it would be understood that this audit should be completed within a matter of a year, 6 months, 9 months, 3 months, as the case may be.
No, I also want to speak to the matter of motions of no confidence in general, just so that the public has a better understanding of what they are and what they can be used for. So, just give you a chance to give that clarity at this point in time.
Was can you repeat that question?
Sorry, in terms of the idea of the motions of no confidence, why are motions of no confidence, used in the instance of the minority or even the opposition, just to give some perspective on its purpose and the importance of it.
But it is extremely important because it is for one of the reasons why it is there is for the purposes of bringing a minister or a secretary into account for specific actions, right?
Mhm.
So nobody is saying that Kelvin is wrong in bringing the motion. What I'm saying is that the wording of the motion is flawed because you can't bring a motion based on the allegations because he's saying that he has a bombshell to drop tomorrow, right? But in saying that if you know that you have strong evidence and there's paper that you're going to pull out tomorrow and you're going to drop up a document in front of the House and in front of the Chief Secretary and you're going to say, well, here's my evidence, look at here, do something about it, then there should be the word evidence in there.
Hmm.
So that an emotion must, a motion to, for emotion to be carried, right? um, the motion that he to be carried for the motion to be carried, it has to be one that is extremely strong. It must be able to stand up to not just public scrutiny, but academic and intellectual scrutiny as well. And the wording is there's public concern. Um, okay, where is the public concern? I will ask the question. Um, there's allegations has ought to know or knew or ought to have known about these allegations of corruption. The allegations of corruption. I would have reread it. Whereas there is evidence that bid rigging and corruption exists within the division of infrastructure. I would have shortened this so much that it would have been concise, but um, it would have served the purpose of uh, meeting the standards of calling the secretary into account. Right now, I'm watching on and looking at some of your Facebook followers, and they're saying that you know he presented evidence. Yeah, but where did he present the evidence? Did he present the evidence in the house? And if he present again, um, allegations is not evidence. and this $90 million for that he spoke about for road works and drainage and um, building a bridge. How many roads were fixed? And is it 90 million or 9 million? Um, how much is it really? And politicians owe themselves and they owe the people a proper explanation. And they
Certainly.
owe themselves and the people an accurate, especially in an instance like this, where you are bringing an allegation of corruption and you are going to come tomorrow and say that you have evidence that there is corruption, then you should have just said it that there is, whereas evidence has surfaced to prove or to show that there is corruption and bid rigging taking place within the division of infrastructure, blah blah blah. You know, the wording for me is off. The wording does not it does not link back to what is should be the evidence
Yes.
in the academic world. We tell our students, if you have an opinion or you have a thought and you have an idea that you wish to bring to in writing an assignment, you must be able to support that with the academic evidence, right? If you are bringing a motion of no confidence in a strong motion of no confidence in the Secretary for Infrastructure, would have had the word evidence and not allegations, because you are in the House. In the House, you have free speech. You can say anything in the House. Your motion can say anything, unless it is that you're not confident in the evidence that you are about to bring.
Now, Dr. Mohammed, one of the concerns that has been voiced by the minority repeatedly over the past few months is that, the idea of so selecting contractors or this process of the procurement. The secretary admitted that he did not necessarily go as outlined in terms of the procurement methods. I mean, it was done under the emergency works provision for procurement. That's how some of these contractors were gained for the carnival period. Now, the minority has repeatedly said that work for carnival, in preparation for carnival, does not constitute as emergency works. So I want to get your take on that matter as to whether those works should have been used under the heading of emergency works, or whether it should have gone through the normal procurement process that takes a little bit more time before work can begin.
Well, given the fact that, and to be fair to the minority leader as well, um, this soul select, this idea of soul select is very concerning from a governance perspective, and the reason why soul select is so concerning is because of this very motion that there's that evidence can surface that um, you're giving your friends, your family, your neighbor, your cousin, and whoever a contract, right? And using it under the emergency works provisions for carnival, it doesn't augur well. It doesn't augur well in the public's domain, because the question again, and Mr. Morris may have a very good point. How much of the roads that was paved were
Yes.
actually used during the carnival period? Now, I was in Tobago was last week, and had a drive uh, up in the east, and I saw where a new road was created um, to access the east, but through up a hill, through a mountain, instead of going around a corner because of rockfall and whatnot. Emergency works can be done as a result of that. Um, Emergency works really and truly during carnival, um, unless you are concerned about the fact that a road may collapse if a big truck pass on it. Um, there has to be some limitation,
Mm-hmm.
and a limitation that is objective and reasonable in the minds of everyone. Um, and
Now,
therein is where the concern lies.
now, in light of that, is there then validation to some of the allegations against Mr. James? And does it warrant a motion of no confidence as is being put forward by the leader?
Well, you see, the thing is, again, it has to do with the evidence, right?
Mhm.
And you know, the evidence has to show that the money is he's giving to give someone a contract by sole select is one thing, right? So Candice, I'm the secretary, and I have road and drainage to fix in Bethesda, and it is on the verge of serious collapse because spring tide, let's just say, caused some serious damage to the roadways, and some erosion to take place, and I need you to go in and do some work. And you said okay, and the work will cost $5 million, right? $5 million, and for that $5 million, I'm getting a new road, I'm getting the coastline bolstered, infrastructure done, I'm getting a new bridge, I'm getting a river that is dredged and flows well. Um, then okay, fine. But if out of that 5 million after I pay you, 1 million goes into my pocket, we have a concern, we have a problem.
Hmm.
So, the thing is, it comes down to what extent does he have evidence? I mean, there are going to be persons that are saying that, well, the last people that should be talking about corruption is the People's National Movement. Um, that the led and continuous administrations of mismanagement of public funds, and that's what led to the PDP winning now the independence. Now, I want to say one thing that he mentioned, and he talked about the independents having left the PDP, that they should have independent, singular, individual, independent minds that allows them to vote. This is not a conscience vote, and Mr. Morris should know better than that. Um, whether if they're independents collectively, then they're collectively one whole, and they therefore are still under um, the rule of the whip, under the right. So it's not like tomorrow when he goes to the parliament, the same parliament, but when he goes to the assembly and he goes into the chamber, that he's going to get people uh, to vote for him individually and support um, his motion, unless what he comes with tomorrow is damning, and I use the word damning, on the part of the secretary. Then I would therefore have to sit down and say, okay, fine, right?
Yes.
But in the evidence, in the absence of that, I stand by the fact that if he wanted a stronger, and I put it all to that he's new, he is young, if he's a first time minority leader, he may not have passed this through, and he should not have to pass this through the party leadership and whatnot, because he is a leader in his own right. But the wording, I mean, this could have been written so much better and so much more concise, to the point that you get um, you get out of
Get the
it
point
uh,
across.
as
Yes.
not even that, but you get a stronger position, and that is what
Certainly.
I'm saying. That this is weak, and it is weak because you are basing this on allegations. This is like me saying to you, Candice, it is alleged that you went and
Hmm.
was in the middle of yesterday's festivities drinking Carol from a glass bottle when you were not, and I would jail you for that.
Yes.
I mean, there's the word allegations is not what you
Not
use
strong
in a
enough.
motion where you have phrase briefly. It has to be, whereas there is evidence. Forget public concern right now, right? whereas there is evidence of bid rigging and corruption within the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, and whereas, as a matter of public concern, the Secretary's conduct in relation to these allegations raises, I would listen.
All right, Dr. Mohammed. Well, we have to leave it right there because we are out of time. But we are certainly looking forward to see what comes out of that motion, and we'll probably be connecting with you after the House sits tomorrow to sort of analyze what is being put forward in the House. So I want to thank you for being on with us. It was lovely speaking with you again, and I hope you continue having a restful week.
Thank you very much.
All right, viewers, that's how we're going to have to wrap the show this morning. Thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful, safe, and productive day, and we will see you again tomorrow. Together we're stronger. Good morning to Tobago updates.